Welcome to VoteProPot-Cast, the award-winning cannabis news podcast brought to you by VoteProPot.com. Here are your hosts, Phil Adams, Jay Britton, and Andrew McCreadies.
Are America's marijuana growers the best in the world?
Hell yeah.
Low THC, could that be the next big trend? And what should we even be calling this stuff? We're going to ask those questions. We may not answer them, but we're definitely going to ask those questions. Welcome, everybody, to VoteProPot-Cast. First, we're going to start off. Andrew has some breaking news from the cannabis industry. What do you got, Andrew?
Oh, that's right. No one would have ever saw this coming, but it's official. Marlboro has now officially announced it's getting into the cannabis industry. Who would have thought?
Crickets.
Oh.
That's it?
Okay.
Wow. Shocker.
No, I mean, 'cause they've been teasing about it for years and been years.
Yeah.
But actually, what I think really has happened is they've finally announced that they officially are looking into starting a brand. They haven't announced a brand. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure you're not going to see something that has the name Marlboro with a pot leaf on it. You'll never see that.
No.
It'll be under a different name.
No, they'll come up with a different
Well, they're R.J. Reynolds, right?
Yeah, something like that.
So maybe R.J. Reynolds has a weed.
Well, imagine the Marlboro man sitting on a horseback, just with a big fat joint.
With a big,
that would be cool.
Marlboro man in a VW bus.
In a VW bus with like a tie-dye T-shirt on and an acoustic guitar around his back.
The Marlboro dude. That reminds me. Oh, guys, I traveled through time the other day. I actually went back in time to 1976.
You went back in time?
Wow. Went back in time to 1976, and I did it with marijuana. And here's what I did. I took some high THC cannabis that I got at the dispensary. It was probably in the high 20s percentage, maybe 30. Let's say 30%.
Pretty potent.
And I mixed it with this new CBD hemp flower, which smells and tastes like medical cannabis, but it just doesn't have the THC in it. So when you mix the two together, you're actually adding more terpenes, and it was a really nice flavor. So I balanced it out, and I was like, I could smoke a whole joint. It was like back in the 1970s, you could smoke a whole joint and go, hey, maybe I'll roll another one, because it really wasn't that strong.
Ah, so you really
and I really enjoyed the smoke. It had a nice flavor, and it really definitely felt it from the neck down, big time.
Right.
So I had a nice little buzz, but it was nowhere near.
I don't remember back then the weed tasted all that great.
No, it didn't taste as good. No, you're right. Until those days when the sense of me came about, the seedless, that's when you started getting buds and no sticks and no seeds.
Don't you remember you could roll a joint and you might forget and have a seed in there and you're puffing away and it goes pop.
Right.
It's like one of those choke cigars.
The good old days.
Well, that's the thing. We weren't just smoking buds, we were smoking leaves and sticks. That's why it didn't taste so good,
Harsh.
It's funny because we've talked about this recently, but I'm a true believer that there's a space in the market for low THC product, right? We've talked about it.
I would have to think so.
Yeah. I mean, especially like older folks just getting back into it. Kids are going, we've talked about it. It's like, man, I'm going to go to the dispensary, but this shit scares the hell out of me, There's a company out. I saw this today. Motley Fool had a little article. David Jagulski, I think is how you pronounce his name. There's a new company, our new product by a company called Vireo Health, and it's called Light Bud instead of Bud Light. Get it?
Light Bud.
But the
is it LITE Bud?
Yes, it is. It's LITEBUD. And again, they're playing on this. They're thinking there's a market out there for lower THC. To give you an indication, if you didn't know, back in, it says from 1995 to 2014, the Drug Enforcement Agency saw THC potent levels rise from 4% to 12%. So again, this is from 1995 to 2014.
Yeah, substantial.
Right. Now, I mean, you see it because it's on the labels, man. 25% is not uncommon. And above. I mean, there's 30. So when we were smoking weed in the 70s, we were looking at 4 and 5%. So
right, and we enjoyed the smoking aspect of it.
Yeah, the social part of it.
Sitting around the social part,
sharing,
and
partying.
passing a joint around or whatever, and or just sitting and doing bong hits.
Right.
And now you can't just sit around and pass a joint or do bong hits like that.
But also, I just think there's a tolerance thing. I think people our age and our generation who many of them, if we said before, have put it down for years. And now that it's become more mainstream, they're like, you know what? I'm going to try this again. But they don't want to go in and buy some freaking herb that's 25 or 30% THC. They're afraid of it.
Now, do you suppose college kids today are smoking this high potency weed, and it's not affecting them any more than we did back in the day? I mean, it's
got to affect them more. And also, they're smoking all these concentrates. I was just looking at two strains I got at the local dispensary, and I'm looking at a whole Humboldt Legacy, which I got, and it's really nice, and it was 15% THC.
Okay.
And then I got some Blackberry, which is 31% THC.
Whoa!
Twice as much.
So Andrew's idea, I think, is great of rolling a joint with half and half, man.
Yeah.
So anyway,
a great idea.
Or even 1 to 3.
Right. Yeah, I mean, then you can pass a joint. During the day,
I would put
and
3/4 hemp and 1/4, THC.
I tell you,
THC weed.
This weed today, you roll a joint, you take 3 hits off that joint. I'm done for a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sit in the corner and think.
That's my daily allotment.
Well, I tend to go for the 1-to-1 anyway when I can, because I like the way the CBD balances out the THC.
Right.
For me personally, it really helps less anxiety, and I enjoy. It's more mellow. I enjoy the high more.
Well, some people are, and I did. I used CBD flower when I quit smoking tobacco.
Oh yeah.
Just if you got really craving, I just rolled it. I just did a CBD hemp flower pre-roll, and it might have relaxed me in my body, because all the CBD and all the other terpenes and compounds.
Right.
But it definitely was not psychoactive. I didn't feel high or anything. But
that's interesting, and that's helped you quit smoking.
Oh yeah, well yeah, when you have a craving to light something up,
yeah.
But not get
and also it was enjoyable. Some people really like it. I could see also, like, if you wanted to take a break, like during the day. Say you're out fishing, but you don't want to get fucking wasted.
Yeah.
But doing my old puff on, so you smoke one of those things, mellow you out, sit on the bank,
Yeah, it's cool.
So last we spoke, Andrew, you were either quit or cut way down. Is that you still?
No, I quit. I haven't smoked cigarettes for a while now. Yeah.
All right, man.
Good for you, dude.
I'm proud of you, brother.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for Vote Pro Podcast. If you enjoy the show, we'd love to hear from you. Send us your thoughts at VoteProPot.com/contact or send us an email at podcast@VoteProPot.com, and please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to be part of the show, call our message line at 240-257-2441. Tell your friends about us and be sure to like, follow and share us on social media. Just go to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn and Twitter and do a search for Vote Pro Pot. Now, back to the boys.
Speaking of good weed, apparently America grows some of the best weed in the world. I don't know. Is that true?
Well, since 1993 or 94, since there was a legal market in California for medical, the growers on the West Coast in California have just been going crazy. I mean, they've been developing strains for years. The only other area is Amsterdam. They have been developing strains for longer than California has. But I think, in typical American fashion, we sort of obsessed on it. Let's supercharge this, man. Turbo. Bigger, better, faster,
Some is
more.
good, more is better.
Right. So we went crazy, and all these great strains are coming out. But the problem is that American strains and American weed is highly sought after around the world. One, because the gene pool, we got great strains in America. We've developed these great strains. And I really didn't realize this until I read this in an article recently, and that is a lot of people outside the United States like American weed because it's been checked for
right. It's been vetted, kind of.
Right, it's been vetted. It's clean.
Tested,
it's been tested, and it's been checked for toxins, and so therefore it's sought after. A lot of also the quality of a lot of American products are sought after worldwide because American makes some really good quality products. So what's happening now? But because we can't legally export it, other countries, specifically Canada, are setting up international trade deals. They're setting up deals. They're setting up. There's companies and even American companies see this, and what they're doing is they're just setting themselves up to be bought by a Canadian company one day.
Sure.
So basically,
Oh,
America
you think so?
is just
Okay, yeah.
America. We developed this industry, got all these strains. I mean, and we perfected the dispensary and growing.
And we're exporting the whole freaking industry.
And the California has been the center of the cannabis culture, internationally. California is the center of cannabis culture.
Wow, yeah, I believe it.
Sure.
We developed all this. We have all these strains. We had the ability to make trillions of dollars in the future on this, and we're just giving it away. America just says, nope, we're going to let every other country take it. And Americans, if you want to get in the business, you're going to have to leave the country and get involved in companies outside of America to get involved. And that's what people are doing.
Yeah.
Americans
and at some point, that's going to turn around, and it could very well be too late.
Well,
and we've had this discussion before. You know, we could catch up, but are we sure? You know?
I know, but in the meantime, they do it with American technology all the time. They just take our strains to other countries and grow them and profit from them.
That's right.
You know, we're just going to stop them.
So, you know, you folks in Washington, D.C., if you really believe in America first, how about some American weed first? You know? Just saying. Just saying. To my fellow right-wingers, how about a little American weed first?
There you go.
I've always been kind of up in the air sometimes about what this substance should actually be called. And I think it really kind of is partly situational and partly, you know, specific to what you're talking about. You know, do we call it cannabis? Do we call it marijuana? Do we call it dope, weed, pot? You know,
the devil's lettuce.
What do you think is appropriate for, you know, depending on the usage for calling this plant what it could be?
Well, you know, this is something I didn't really think about that much when we started the podcast a couple of years ago, but it's become a topic, you know, of conversation, both especially on our Facebook page. We see it a lot.
Yeah.
There's a guy, he's one of our top guys on our Facebook page named Joey. I think it's Boudreaux. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
But anytime we post any kind of article and the article uses the term marijuana in it, he just posts one word, cannabis, which I find really interesting. Have you seen him yet?
Cannabis. It's to the point now, which is every time he does it, it's hysterical.
Yeah,
it
is.
It is.
Dude. But, you know, the thing is, we've gotten to the point where in the last few months, we ask our guests that when we have interviews, you know, whether it's Steve D'Angelo or you know, Keith Straub.
Now, remind me what Steve D'Angelo said. I remember you asked him that.
Well, Steve said, I asked him, and he said, it depends, because when I'm talking in front of politicians and they're writing up legislation and regulations, I'm going to be talking about cannabis reform. You know, but if I'm at a cannabis cup and I'm talking to, you know, some guy with, you know, about who makes hand-blown glass bongs,
right.
You know, I'll say, man, I mean, how much weed can you put in that bowl? You know, I mean,
or at a podcast with a bunch of fuck up goof offs like us.
Right. You're not gonna. You're at a party. You're not gonna go. Excuse me, sir. Might you have any cannabis? Right. You hear me going, hey, dude, you got any weed, man?
Well, the thing is,
really, but of course,
what's bringing this?
Excuse me, might you have any Grey Poupon and cannabis?
Right. Some green poupon.
Well, what brings this up again today is an article I'm looking at. It's about a study. This is in CannaMD.com by Jeremy Campbell. And so obviously there's been a growing debate. We discussed that. Do you use the term cannabis? Do you use marijuana? So what's interesting here is Vanderbilt University, in a partnership with YouGov, did a survey. And this recent survey was just published in PLOS One, which is a scientific journal. And what they did is they sought to analyze people's opinions on the following four terms: marijuana, cannabis, medical marijuana, and medical cannabis. And the topics of this survey were legalization, moral acceptability, tolerance of drug activities, perceptions of harms, and stereotypes of users. So 50%, approximately, 50% supported marijuana legalization. 50.3% support cannabis legalization. So there's virtually no difference. Right. No difference.
So talk about how you frame the question.
Exactly. Well, no, the interesting thing is it didn't matter. They still are for it. 50-50. 34% strongly support cannabis legalization versus 26% strongly support marijuana legalization.
That's a statistically significant difference.
That is. 44% said marijuana, in quotes, was morally acceptable, while 44% said that cannabis was. So it's exactly the same.
Right.
It made no difference. So the bottom line, the takeaway, I think, there's a bunch more stuff in here, but regardless of the term you use, the numbers were the same. People felt the same either way. So what they list, this is interesting. When the term cannabis and marijuana were used, consumers described lazy and teenaged. However, when the term medical was used with it, either medical cannabis or medical marijuana, right, the terms they selected were honest and sick. So what I think I think the real takeaway here is NORML and Marijuana Policy Project back 20 years ago had it right when they said the way to get this through is to make it about medical, to make it about medicine, because these terms don't really show any difference between marijuana and cannabis as a term, but a huge, significant difference when you throw medical in there.
Right. Makes a big difference.
So medical cannabis is a lot easier for
people to swallow.
More people to swallow.
Absolutely.
I think I had it wrong because I kind of differentiated it in my mind as, hemp is cannabis. Marijuana is cannabis. Hemp and marijuana are not the same thing, but they're both cannabis.
Right, exactly.
So, marijuana is,
the difference is the ratio of compounds. That's it.
It's the difference between what's in it and how it's used.
That's right.
So, I don't know. I guess there's something to that, but it also kind of, like you say, it's the context.
It's the context. And the takeaway here was, while the survey didn't confirm what many cannabis industry proponents had thought, it did that being that you've got to use cannabis instead of marijuana. It did find something important. Although the terms cannabis and marijuana appear to be interchangeable, as far as public opinion is concerned, the public views the plant more favorably when it is referred to medically. So that's the takeaway of the survey.
How did they view it when they used the term grass?
Yeah, that question didn't.
Remember, you hear like interviews with Ringo and stuff like that. He says, "We used to do grass."
Well,
he brought some grass with him.
We'll dedicate this story to our friend Joey, and I hope Joey listens.
All right, Joe.
And I hope Joey hears this because.
And whenever you put cannabis, I'm going to put grass. Vote pro grass.
One of the big issues with marijuana reform is getting doctors on board. So many doctors don't really understand medical cannabis, and some of them have never even heard of the endocannabinoid system. What happens when you are fairly knowledgeable about medical cannabis and you have your card and you go to the doctor and your doctor says, whoa. No, you can't do that because I don't know it's lethal dose and I don't know it's
right.
We haven't had this. It needs more research, Right. And I don't want you to, and in some cases, you're not dealing with a single doctor. You're dealing with a whole medical group.
Right.
For example, Kaiser Permanente, I think, has been in the news before.
I can
now,
speak
personally,
to that.
my doc is great. He was like, I'd like to know the lethal dose with the
LD50.
LD50. Yeah.
It's 15 pounds per 15 minutes.
Right. And you're
Seriously,
going to lose your lighter.
That's what it is.
And you're going to lose your lighter. Yeah.
Right.
Well into that. And apparently scientists have been trying to kill laboratory animals with cannabis, and they just haven't been able to do it. They just can't kill. You can't. Right. They haven't been able to overdose anyone. Yeah. So I went to my doctor, and he said, "Well, if it works for you, it works for you." So I said, "I've had great when it comes to like anxiety and stress, and or depression and insomnia." And it just really works great for you. And now, especially since it's legal, I know exactly what dosage and what kind I'm getting. And it turns out I just need a little microdose here and there to make a world of difference. A world of difference. And you guys known me my whole life.
Absolutely.
I've gone through some tough times, but lately, last couple of years, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine.
You're doing fine.
But then again, I also have some other health issues, and I have to have a surgery on my leg. And the doctor said, I was talking to not my doctor, but the physician assistant.
The specialist.
And she said, you can't smoke it. They don't want you using any cannabis products 2 weeks before the surgery because you're going to be out. Yeah, because they don't want to. They were afraid that it might affect the anesthesia.
Yeah, we did stories on that. Right.
So, now under those conditions, I'm going to go. Okay, I'll do it for 2 weeks. And also, it's good to dry out every now and then anyway.
Sure.
So I'm going to do that for sure. But I think in other cases. I've heard doctors say, I don't think you shouldn't be doing this. I'm not going to give you. The big one is I'm not going to give you the medicine you need as long as you test positive for cannabis. Now, have you heard of something like that? Anyone?
It happened to me. Yeah, I'm with one of the big ones, and I was prescribed some kind of opioid for something, and I went in to do a blood test, which I have to do regularly. And they said, you got to pee in a cup. I was like, what? Yeah, your doctor says you got to pee in a cup. So I peed in a cup. Doctor called me a couple of days later. I tested positive for THC. Shocker. He read me the riot act. He said it's no different from doing heroin. I mean, I'm not kidding. That's exactly what he said. And he said that no longer would he write me prescriptions for any kind of painkillers. And I said, look, that's fine. I don't want painkillers. That's one of the reasons I use it, so I don't have to use painkillers. And so the long and short of it is he laid down the law.
Wow.
So yeah, and that's Kaiser Permanente. So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and that's the whole system, right?
Yeah,
sure. And I'm sure it's
rules.
I'm sure it's a legal decision from the top that it's a national company and it's federally illegal. And
right, you're not going to say the name of the company,
right? Yeah. And if we're going to overreact, we're going to overreact on a national level.
That's right, exactly.
So that's just the decision we've made.
In my case, if I had a doctor come in and unreasonably say, "I'm not going to serve blah, 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 I'm not going to treat you as long as you test positive," I'll go, "Well, doc, you're fired." I'm going to go find another doctor.
When you're in a HOM or whatever, you can't do that.
You're kind of stuck.
Because that's corporate policy, Andrew, It's corporate policy. So none of the doctors, I don't know, maybe I could find one with a wink and nod, and, but no.
I'd pee in the cup for you, but it wouldn't help.
Yeah, I know better.
No, but my doctor, before I went to get my cannabis card, I thought I'd check with my doctor, see if he had any, major objections to it. Because, he's a good doctor. I like him. Yeah. And I've followed his advice pretty closely on just about everything. And, I've been with him for a long time. And so I just wanted to get his opinion on it. And he said, look, you don't want to know my opinion, okay? You're asking the wrong guy. Yeah. He just said, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm not for it. I'm not for legalizing it. I don't. Kidding. And I wanted to hear him say yes or no,
right?
That this is not good for you from a medical standpoint. That's what I was trying to get from him. That I don't recommend you doing it because it's not medically good for you in your case. And he didn't say that. He didn't say anything like that. He just
Mine didn't either. Yeah.
He just said as a blanket philosophy, so to speak, I'm not for it. I don't think you should do it. Or he didn't say I didn't think you should. He said, don't ask me what I think. You don't want to know what I think. Because I'm not for it. So, great. Asked and answered, So
how old a guy is he, just for curiosity?
He's about our age, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he didn't give me any direct medical advice one way or the other. So I, didn't have anything to follow, so I just went and I got my card
somewhere else.
The rest, as they say, is history.
Take my business elsewhere.
Well, he wouldn't be licensed to give away a medical card anyway. But
obviously, yeah.
Also, it's becoming kind of, I don't want to say mainstream, but a lot of people are opting to use medical marijuana for a number of
Instead of pharmaceuticals, that should be a good thing. You would think, right? What about your doctor, Andrew? What did you say he...
Well, one of the things is now they're talking about like CBD and high blood pressure medicine. But I'm not. That's
being
not
a problem
for
you mean?
me, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
some people don't want you to use
that.
a lot of CBD.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I believe the impression I get is I think if you there's a greater chance of cannabis interacting with other medications if you're using an edible cannabis. I think a couple hits of a vape
because it's in
pen,
your stomach.
Right, it's not going to really interact with some medications, but if it's in your system, in your bloodstream, in your liver, and you're taking something else, I could see that potential. So I could say, man, if you're under some serious medical, if you're taking some serious medication, I would definitely tell my doctor, listen, man, I use medical cannabis.
I consume cannabis.
Definitely, there's another thing I'd say, don't hide it from them.
Definitely.
Don't hide it from them.
Well, especially like in your case where you're going in for
Right.
surgery soon. We've done stories on that where people literally wake up in the middle of a surgery.
But if you belong to one of these big companies, one of these big plans,
like me,
man, I don't know, maybe you got to make your own decision. But I've seen some cases, I could definitely understand why someone would not tell the doctor that they use medical marijuana, even if they have a card or if they're in a state where recreational is legal.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part.
Yeah, Kaiser's in Maryland. How can they possibly? That's a conflict, isn't it? I mean,
right.
Anyway,
I mean, you see, some doctors, you go, listen, I think we need medical marijuana. They look at you like you're friggin' insane. It's like, what's next?
and one of the things
they do have medical value.
One of the things you hear from a lot of doctors is, there's not enough research for me to make a determination.
Right.
Which
is they're kind of like, well, I can understand that, but
some of that's true.
I can too.
That's becoming less and less true.
Becoming less and less true, but it's not being written up in their peer-reviewed journals that they read. Yeah. So they're going to go with
when I hear that,
what their
I say,
industry tells them.
Well, look up, look at Israel. Look at some of the research done in Israel. There is research out there. You're not looking for it. And like Phil says, it's not in your medical journal.
Or you're just reading the research that specifically went to find the negative things about it.
Right.
Which so much research in the United
Pharmaceutical
States
companies were spending a lot of money
to go find the bad things out.
To go find something negative. Yep.
The Schaefer report, that's what that was all about.
So we have another incident, another story about people traveling with cannabis, marijuana, weed, dope, pot, hooch.
Hooch, yeah. I like this website, The French Toast. You ever look at that website?
Yes.
I got some cool articles on there.
Yeah, some pretty funny stuff.
This is a guy named Mike Adams. Any relation, Phil? Mike?
How the hell do I know?
Could be a son. Who knows? I remember you in the 70s. well, this caught my eye because I literally was traveling recently. You guys will be traveling soon. I know, Phil, you're going to Jamaica. I just came back from LA last week. And so, obviously, in LA, it's legal. So I went to the dispensaries, and I'm not going to fucking throw it away, right? So this is an article that basically, and again, we've covered this a few times over the last year or so, and it affirms that the TSA has announced we're not looking for pot, especially small quantities. Especially, it's not what we're looking for. We're looking for guns. We're looking for bombs. You know what I mean?
Right.
But here's the thing that says in this article to be very careful, very cautious, that if you're like me, you're in LA, you're in California, you go through TSA, you figure, hey, I'm cool. As long as I get my carry-on gets through the little Scooby-Dooby and my shoes are cool. Once I get through the gate, I'm sailing free.
It's a done deal.
You're home free.
Yeah.
Right.
Not necessarily. Supposedly in states like mine, Virginia, a lot of southern states where there is no legality, medical or recreational or adult use, they are spending money having drug-sniffing dogs at the freaking airport smelling luggage. So they give some examples of some places in Arkansas and a couple other places where they've had some pretty big busts. Guys got 2 pounds of weed in a suitcase or something stupid. But they're also pulling people out, and you have to be very aware of what your laws are in your local jurisdiction. I'm in Virginia, and in Virginia, anything over a half an ounce is a felony, dude.
Right, where you're traveling from, where you're traveling to,
granted,
where you're traveling through.
Granted, I'm in California, get on a plane, they don't give a fuck if I've got half an ounce of weed, or a little more, or whatever I have, a couple of eighths that I stash in my socks to get it home. They don't care. But you have to understand, in Virginia, that's a felony, a year and $2,500. And even more disheartening is the some of the concentrates in Virginia or other states, in the South. It is a felony, Jack, if you have a vape pen. It's huge. So be careful, be cautious if you're traveling. My recommendation is, especially if you're flying from a legal state to a non-legal state, leave it there. Don't risk it, man. It's just, if you've got a couple edibles, you can put them in a bag of Milk Duds. Nobody's going to But if you're trying to move a half an ounce or something, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's just stupid.
Once again, we really appreciate you checking us out here at Vote Pro Podcast. If you like today's episode or any of our episodes, we do us a great big favor and go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Make some comments, give us a review. We'd love to hear what you think. Mostly,
Sometimes.
If you don't love it, then don't bother. Anyway, and we'd also love to hear from you, right, Jay?
Yeah, man. Send us an email. podcast@VoteProPot.com. We love getting emails. We get a lot of great listeners sending us ideas for stories or telling us what's going on in their state, giving us updates. It's really helpful. Also, check out thelastprisonerproject.org. Steve D'Angelo and others have started this organization to get people out of jail who shouldn't be there. And we have a message line, 240-257-2441. Call and leave us a message.
And okay, there's so much going on in the world of cannabis every week that we can't scratch the surface of on our podcast. So what we try to do is share a lot of information on social networking. So go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter, and do a search for Vote Pro Pot.
Lock me up, find me good, label me a menace to your quiet neighborhood. I don't grow no plants, the state says I can't. That's not freedom, freedom, freedom. That's the point. Smoke a bowl, I roll a joint, do what I want. If I hurt nobody, that's the point. And if I wanna get high, why shouldn't I? That's not freedom, freedom, freedom. That's the point. Decide what's best for you and me. Smoke a bowl or roll a joint. Do what you want. If it hurts nobody, that's the point. So let's get high, yeah, you and I. It's called freedom, freedom, freedom. It's called freedom, freedom, freedom. Oh yeah, that's the point.